Welcome to Mr. Haunt's dungeon, where the darkness comes alive. Dive into spine-chilling tales and eerie encounters that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you love the thrill of a good scare, hit that subscribe button and join us for new frightening and true stories. Don't miss out. Fear awaits. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get to the story. Something disturbing resides in the Appalachian Mountains. Growing up in a small town nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, my life was deeply intertwined with the wilderness. My parents, both avid nature enthusiasts, instilled in me a profound respect and love for the outdoors. They often took me hiking, teaching me to appreciate the subtle beauty and delicate balance of the forest. Their sudden death in a car accident when I was 16 left a gaping void in my life. The forest became my sanctuary, the place where I felt closest to their memory, where their spirits seemed to linger among the ancient trees and whisper through the rustling leaves. After their passing, I found solace in the mountains. The rugged landscape, with its dense forests and winding trails, became my second home. I became an experienced outdoorsman, spending countless weekends exploring the remotest corners of the wilderness, camping under the stars. My friends often joked that I knew the mountains better than the back of my hand. The wild was my escape from the mundane, a place where I could breathe freely and feel truly alive. One autumn, feeling particularly restless and seeking a deeper connection with the wilderness, I decided to venture further into the Appalachian Mountains than I ever had before. I took time off work, packed my gear meticulously, and set out for a week-long solo camping trip by a secluded lake I had spotted on an old map. I wanted solitude and adventure, a break from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. As I hiked deeper into the Appalachians, the familiar trails gave way to untamed wilderness. The forest here felt ancient and untouched, with towering trees that seemed to reach the sky, their leaves creating a vibrant canopy of reds, oranges, and yellows. The ground was a patchwork of fallen leaves, soft moss, and the occasional burst of wildflowers, their colors vivid against the earth tones. The crisp, cool air carried the earthy scent of pine and damp soil, invigorating and refreshing. The deeper I ventured, the more alive the forest felt. The songs of birds, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, and the distant call of a hawk created a symphony of nature that was both soothing and exhilarating. The trails, barely discernible, twisted and turned through the dense foliage, leading me to hidden clearings and bubbling streams. Every step was a discovery, a new glimpse into the wild heart of the Appalachians. On the second day, as I followed a narrow trail that wound around a steep hillside, I came upon a breathtaking vista. The forest opened up to reveal a panoramic view of rolling hills and valleys, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. The sight filled me with a profound sense of peace and awe, reminding me of why I loved these mountains so much. They were a place of beauty and mystery, where the world seemed to stand still, and I could feel the presence of my parents in every rustling leaf and whispering breeze. That night, I set up camp by a secluded lake I had discovered on the map. The water was clear and still, reflecting the surrounding trees and the star-filled sky above. As I sat by my campfire, roasting marshmallows and listening to the symphony of nocturnal creatures, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The mountains, with their timeless beauty and tranquility, had a way of making the rest of the world fade away. But as the night wore on, an unsettling feeling crept in. The forest, usually a place of comfort, began to feel oppressive and watchful. The shadows seemed to move and shift, and the usual sounds of the night grew strange and distorted. It was then that I heard something unusual. It started as a distant murmur, gradually growing louder and more rhythmic, a chant. Slightly unnerved, I decided to investigate. I grabbed my flashlight and ventured into the darkness, following the sound. The deeper I went, the more the forest seemed to close in around me. The chanting grew louder, more distinct, and my curiosity turned to dread. I stumbled upon a clearing where the source of the chanting became clear. A group of people, their faces painted with white and red symbols, danced around a stone altar. They wore animal hides and intricate beadwork, moving with an eerie synchronization. Their eyes, wide and unblinking, shone with an otherworldly fervor. Before I could react, they spotted me. In an instant, they surrounded me, their chant stopping abruptly. They bound my hands with surprising strength and dragged me through the forest. I was too stunned and terrified to resist. They brought me to their village, hidden deep within the woods. It was a primitive settlement, with huts made of wood and covered in strange carvings. The villagers, all clad in similar animal hides and paint, watched me with a mix of suspicion and awe. They moved with a quiet, almost ghostly grace, their eyes constantly scanning the forest, as if expecting something to emerge at any moment. The tribe lived a life deeply intertwined with nature and superstition. They hunted with handmade weapons, fished in the nearby streams, and gathered herbs and roots from the forest. Their rituals were frequent and elaborate, involving chants, dances, and offerings. Their diet was simple, consisting of fish, berries, and foraged plants, prepared using ancient methods passed down through generations. They built their huts from wood, mud, and animal hides, decorating them with intricate carvings and symbols believed to ward off evil spirits. The tribe's social structure was rigid and hierarchical, with the chief at the top. The chief, an imposing figure with piercing eyes and a commanding presence, was both a spiritual leader and a warrior. He was believed to be chosen by the Hollow One itself, and his word was law. Below the chief were the shamans, who served as intermediaries between the tribe and the Hollow One. They performed rituals, healed the sick with herbal remedies, and interpreted the will of their deity through visions and signs. Warriors held the next tier in the hierarchy, responsible for protecting the tribe and leading hunting expeditions. They were fierce and highly skilled, their bodies adorned with scars and tattoos that marked their bravery and strength. The remaining villagers, including women, children, and the elderly, were responsible for daily tasks such as gathering food, crafting tools, and maintaining the village. The tribe's laws were strict and often brutal. Any act that could be seen as angering the Hollow One was met with severe punishment. The outsiders were forbidden to enter their territory. Anyone who stumbled upon their village was either killed or, in rare cases, offered as a sacrifice. Rituals were performed to ensure the tribe's safety and prosperity, and these ceremonies were taken with utmost seriousness. Failure to participate or show proper reverence could result in exile or worse. Their lives revolved around their deity, the Hollow One, a creature they believed held the power to control the elements and bend the will of those who saw it. According to their lore, the Hollow One had dwelled in the forest since time immemorial, a guardian spirit turned vengeful deity. The tribe believed that their offerings and sacrifices kept the Hollow One appeased and protected them from its wrath. The Hollow One was depicted as a towering figure, its limbs elongated and sinewy, its skin a mottled gray-green. Its eyes were deep hollows, empty voids that seemed to draw in the souls of those who met its gaze. Its long, matted hair hung from its head, and its fingers ended in sharp, talon-like claws. The villagers believed it could appear and disappear at will, and that it protected the forest from outsiders. According to their legends, the Hollow One had once been a guardian spirit, a protector of the forest and its inhabitants. However, centuries ago, a great calamity had befallen the land. An ancient tribe had angered the spirit by desecrating sacred grounds, leading to the Hollow One's transformation into a vengeful entity. To appease it and ensure their survival, the children of the Hollow One offered regular sacrifices, believing that the creature's favor was the only thing keeping them safe from its wrath. My presence, an outsider in their sacred territory, was seen as a dire threat. I was to be their next offering, a sacrifice to regain the Hollow One's favor. They threw me into a makeshift cage, where I watched as they prepared for the ritual with a sense of dread and disbelief. The villagers moved with a solemn purpose, their eyes reflecting both fear and reverence for the creature they worshipped. As the evening of the ritual approached, they adorned themselves with more elaborate paint and donned ceremonial masks. The atmosphere in the village grew tense, the air thick with anticipation and fear. They dragged me to the stone altar at the center of their clearing, the moon hanging low and full in the sky. They laid me on the altar, their chanting rising to a fevered pitch. The chief, a tall, imposing figure with piercing eyes, raised a ceremonial knife, its blade glinting in the moonlight. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the end, my heart pounding in my chest. Then, everything fell silent. I opened my eyes to see the villagers frozen in place, their eyes wide with terror, fixed on something behind me. Slowly, I turned my head, and there it was, the Hollow One. The creature was more terrifying than I could have imagined. Standing at least 10 feet tall, its elongated limbs moved with a grotesque elegance. Its skin was a mottled gray-green, covered in patches of thick, coarse hair. The eyes, if they could be called that, were deep, hollow voids, sucking in the light around them. Its face was a twisted, nightmarish visage with a mouth full of sharp, uneven teeth that seemed to stretch impossibly wide. Its long, matted hair cascaded down its back. Its fingers ended in sharp, talon-like claws that glinted menacingly in the moonlight. The Hollow One's movements were unnaturally smooth, almost fluid, as if it were not entirely bound by the physical laws of our world. Its presence exuded an aura of ancient malevolence, a cold, creeping dread that seeped into my bones. The creature seemed to draw energy from the very earth, its hollow eyes burning with an eerie, otherworldly light. The Hollow One moved closer, its hollow eyes locking onto mine. A sense of overwhelming dread washed over me, paralyzing me with fear. It raised one clawed hand, pointing directly at me, and the villagers began to chant again, their voices trembling with a mix of fear and reverence. The chief spoke a few words in a language I didn't understand, his voice shaking as he held the ceremonial knife high. The Hollow One's eyes, piercing through mine. I could feel its gaze penetrating my soul, as if it were searching for something deep within me. Then, as if by some cruel twist of fate, the night sky was torn apart by a deafening roar. A wildfire had broken out at the edge of the clearing, spreading rapidly through the dry underbrush. The villagers screamed and scattered in panic, their chants turning into cries of terror. The fire moved with frightening speed, consuming everything in its path. In the chaos, the ropes binding my wrists burned away, and I seized the chance to escape. I sprinted through the forest, the flames hot on my heels. Smoke choked the air, and the heat was unbearable, but adrenaline pushed me forward. As I ran, I glanced back to see the Hollow One standing amidst the flames, its hollow eyes glowing with an eerie light. It let out a chilling roar, its voice echoing through the forest, but it did not pursue me. Instead, it seemed almost to melt into the fire, its monstrous form becoming one with the flames. Somehow, I made it back to my campsite, collapsing beside the lake, gasping for breath. The wildfire raged behind me, consuming the village and the forest. I could hear the cries of the tribe fading into the distance, their voices swallowed by the roar of the flames. By morning, the fire had burned itself out. The once dense forest was now a charred wasteland, the village reduced to ashes. I packed up my things and left, the haunting memories of that night etched into my mind. Even now, I can't escape the feeling that something watches me from the shadows whenever I venture into the woods. I still hear the chanting in my dreams, and I can't shake the image of that monstrous creature, its hollow eyes following me wherever I go. The Appalachian mountains hold their secrets, and I know I barely escaped with my life,